lovelies, my name is Jessica and welcome to Makeup Misfit. And Happy New Year! I can't believe it's January 1st. I can't believe it's 2024. 23 just seemed to fly by. December completely flew by. I did my own version of Vlogmas. I called it Jessmas or A Very Merry Jessmas, and I did a video every single day in December from the 1st or right up to the 31st. And let me tell you, I was impressed with myself. If you guys saw any of that, I hope you enjoyed it. It was definitely a lot to do, but I had a good time with it. So the videos are going to continue for the next couple of days anyways. But you guys, I am back at it. I didn't think I would be doing this project again this year, but I am back. We are doing this. I am doing another Pan That palette. So I did this in 21 and 22. In 21, I worked on my ABH Norvina and Soft Glam palette. I was going through that era, which I finally closed that. That is done. That is over. And in 22, I worked on my Viseart Midsummer palette, which I completely finished off, and I was so happy with myself. I decided to take a break in 23, and I really wasn't planning on doing this again this year. But you guys, I decided to finally join in on the Pantastic Ladies theme for 2024. Now, every year I've done my thing, I've voted, I've even thrown a couple suggestions out there. They've never really made it, but I have voted, and none of the ones that I really have ever voted for have really made it to the top, or at least made it as the theme. Now, the suggestions that they had for 24, there was a couple that I was interested in, and if any of the, I want to say there was three for some reason. I know there was definitely two options. I want to say three, where if any of those won as the theme, I would do the project. One of them was my number one, which unfortunately was not this theme, but I was still excited to do this one as this is one that I was interested in doing, which I will chat about in just a second. But when I saw that this theme had one, I instantly had a couple of palettes come to mind, and I figured that this would be the best way to do it, to get this palette, one of these palettes into this theme, into this project, and out of my collection. The Pantastic Ladies theme for Pan That Palette 2024 is Fun Sized, which is a pocket theme or pocket sized palette. And you guys, this is literally a throw it in the front of your jeans pocket sized palette. I'm so looking forward to getting to know and work with this palette. I've had it for, I want to say I purchased it in December or fall winter time of 2022, and I think I've only used it once for sure, maybe twice. It is a very little palette, and when I did purchase it, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of had the idea of, oh, this would be easy to pan. I could use this in a Pan That palette or something of those sorts, and it's never been rolled into Pan Those eyeshadows. It wasn't rolled into Project Level Up at all, so I figured this would be the best way to get it into the project and out of my collection, and I have the palette sitting here next to me. Now, like I said, I did have a couple ideas, a couple palettes come to mind, and I was really kind of debating what I wanted to do because some of these are older, some of these are really old, so this is the newest out of the bunch. I'm gonna go over this palette with you guys first and then kind of chat about some ideas that I have. So, the lucky winner for my Pan That palette for the Pantastic Ladies this year is my Lorac Mini Pro palette, and this is in Winter Rose. So I think this came out for their holiday for 22, I believe. So these are the 6 shades. This is the only one that I've had. This is the only Lorac palette I've ever owned. I was debating between this one and another one that is very similar. I want to say the other one is like part of their actual line. This was just the holiday one. But I got it at Shoppers. It was like $20 for this tiny little thing. But I'm actually really excited to use these shimmers. You can see there's been some usage in the middle one. Now the shades are Twinkle, Everglow, which is the one that has a lot of use on it, and Wild. And then Nymph, Petal, and Woods. So I think that being a neutral palette, wintertime, the start of this project, I can get a lot of use on this. and pair it with a bunch of other stuff. Now I'm going through currently the day that I'm filming this, today, tomorrow, the next couple of days, going through all of my eyeshadow palettes and organizing them for Pan That Palette, or for Pan Those Eyeshadows and Project Level Up. And this palette, pretty much whatever I end up rolling into any of those projects, I think would go really well with this. I will actually swatch it out for you guys, and we're good. She's all intact. Okay. So first, I'm going to swatch. Those are the shimmers, and they're very pretty, actually. Not that I wasn't expecting any less, but you never know sometimes. Okay, so that's what those shimmers look like. I think those are actually beautiful, and I'm really excited to get into them. And then the mattes. It's kind of nice too because it's almost like each of the shimmers has a corresponding matte, which makes a really easy, simple one and done look. You can definitely pair, like, this would probably be an inner corner more than anything, but for something a little bit different, you can pair this as the shimmer and this is your crease shade, or all over the lid and then top it off with a shimmer, however you may do it. But it's very easy to just pair the shimmer with the matte and just be done with it. Call it a day. It's easy for running out the door if I'm late, if I gotta work super early in the morning, just an easy, don't want to think about it type of look. These shades would be really, really nice for that. So I'm excited to start using this. Like I said, I've only used it once, maybe twice. So I'm really hoping that with good use on this, I can finish this palette off for this year. That's my goal, not just to hit pan in every shade. I would like to completely finish off this palette and get it out of my collection altogether. Now, if that happens, I do have a couple of other palettes here that I was really debating on working on for this project. And a couple of them, I'm at the point where I don't want to declutter them, but I want to get them out. I've had them around for a little while and I'm just ready to move on. I've had the intention of using them sometime during this past year and I never did. So if I finish off my Lorac palette, I would like to possibly roll in one, if not both, of these next two palettes I'm going to show you and just see how far I can get with them. So we're going to start off with this one palette from Viseart. This is the Solstice palette. Now, before I open this, 4 of the shades are from the original Solstice palette. I have finished off the other 4. And then the other, I think there's 7 shades in here. 6 shades in here currently. The other 2 is from my, what's the word I'm looking for? The Death of Me palette. It was my mini warm mattes palette, I think, something along those lines. It was the 12 pan. You guys have heard me talk about it time and time again. A shade came broken. It was a disaster of a palette. I went through that. I had finished off a couple of shades, but what I did was I ended up taking a couple of them and putting them into this palette. So the original 4 shades from this palette are these top 3 and this one, and these 2 are from the other 12 pan. I'm pretty sure. So these 6 shades are definitely a contender for later on. I was really debating working on this because the Solstice palette, those last 4 shades from this original palette, I've had for a little bit now. Like I said, in 22, I finished off the Midsummer palette and I bought these around the same time. So I want to say I bought them sometime in 20 or 21. I don't know if it was when they were released or if it was afterwards. I can't remember. But these have been around for a little bit. And just because of the shades from that Warm Edits palette, I am ready to just like move on from it altogether. So this is one option. And then the other option, you guys are going to be like, if you've been around for a bit, you're going to be possibly, hopefully not, a little confused. But this is my Midsummer Packaging by Viseart. So this is the palette that I had completely panned, finished off for Pan That Palette in 2022. But the inside, I can promise you, is not that palette. I did not repurchase it. What I did was I took the rest of those shades from the Warm Edit palette or whatever it was called, and I put them into here. So I kind of went with Color Story because this was completely empty. I could just make whatever I wanted out of this. But because Solstice still had a few shades in there, I wanted to take similar shades to make an easy color story so that when I did reach for that palette, it would be a breeze to use. My intention was to use this in the fall of 23, and I did not even dip into this one time at all. So this one has 7 shades. The other one has 6. So even though I have, 13 shades left altogether, I would like to hopefully try and reach for both of them. But I think what my goal or what my idea would be is to do the Solstice first, because like I said, the original Solstice shades that are in here are older than the Warm Edits palette, and I would like to just, there's less shades, so just maybe a little bit easier, quicker to get this out. And then at some point, I would like to focus on this and get this one out of here as well. So this is completely the Warm Edits palette that I'm just ready to move on from. I've had issues with these shades I haven't used, so they've been untouched. I may have swatched them, but I don't think I've ever used them. That palette just gave me so much grief that I just didn't want to anymore. And I thought that putting them into these mini Viseart palettes would help me get the use on that one palette, splitting it up, creating my own color story, doing whatever, making them smaller, and it definitely did not. So I loved using Solstice as a whole palette. I loved using Midsummer as a whole palette, even though I did get a little burnt out on it. But for whatever reason, this Warm Edit palette, which is like the one that I had wanted the most, disappointed me the most. So I'm not going to focus on those right now. Obviously, that's not where this is at. The Lorac palette is my main focus. I do want to show you one other palette. This is what I call the oldest palette in my collection. So if you guys know, you may already know. It's in this packaging. I'm going to work on this just kind of here and there and throughout and see where I end up at some point in the year. But this is all that is left of my Chocolate Bonbons palette by Too Faced. This shade I'm using as a highlighter. I recently hit pan on this shade, which I also use as a highlighter. I kind of combine the two together. So I don't know why I was ever looking for pink highlighters, because like the more I'm going through my stuff, the more I'm realizing I have them or I'm creating them. And then this shade has been completely finished for a little bit. This is making slow progress. And then I've been reaching for these two a little bit more. So this one already has a dip in it, and this one is like just a few touches on it. So even though this is my oldest, it's not going to be the one that I focus on first. I do use it the odd time, so if I just continue to do it that way, even pairing this with some of the shades from the Lorac palette, I can get progress on it. I'm not in a rush to get this out. I'm not in a rush to get this one out either, but I think that this would be the best way to start this project. If I started it with one of those Viseart palettes there, I have a feeling this would not be a very good project for me. And because I took a break in 23, coming back to it in 24, I want something that's going to not necessarily be easy, but like energize me. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for either. Inspire me is not quite the word, but like make me actually kind of want to do this project again and continue on with it and have good momentum. And if everything works out, then I can oh my God, I can't speak anymore. I can continue on to another palette. So of course, we're only gonna focus one palette at a time, so I'm not gonna jump ahead of myself. I just wanted to let you guys know what the contenders were for this, what my ideas are after if I finish off the Lorac palette, which I really hope that I do. I'm telling myself I'm gonna do it. I'm hoping it's not gonna be long. I have no idea how deep the pans are. I don't even know if they come out. I'm not sure if they're magnetic or not. If you've ever used one of these little mini Lorac palettes, they're the mini pro palettes, let me know if they're magnetic or not, because then I can kind of like take one out and maybe compare it to a Viseart palette, like one of the shades in here, just to see how deep they are, because I finished off that Viseart Midsummer palette, I want to say it was 6 or 7 months. So, and that was 8 shades. So I'm aiming for mid-year to be finished this. I would be completely happy no matter what, as long as it's done by December of this year. But that is it. So I'm really excited to get back onto Pan That Palette and finally be doing a Pantastic Ladies theme, because I have been waiting to find one that works for me, and I figured this would be the best way to get back into doing this project. We'll see how things go. We'll see how I'm enjoying it. Maybe, possibly one day in the future, I'll do my own Pan That palette again and choose the palette that I want to do. But we don't need to jump ahead of ourselves here. So that is everything. Thank you guys. I hope that you enjoy this project. Let me know if you're doing this, if you're a part of the Pantastic Ladies or not. If you're doing Pan That palette, I really do enjoy watching these projects, watching the progress, just seeing the palette go from wherever that starting point may be, to the complete end, whether it be goals being hit just by hitting pan or completely finishing off the palette. Just seeing that progress is so satisfying. I just love seeing makeup being used and loved. And I was watching a makeup collection video and she opened up her palette. She's like, this is so gross. And it looked all used. And I'm like, that's nothing, honey. So I just love seeing it gross. But you know what I mean? It's so satisfying to see people actually using the makeup, loving it, enjoying it, seeing it go, because I don't know, makeup that looks loved is just like everything. Anyway, that's enough of that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you guys all later. Bye.